Marana Town Talk, the official Town of Marana podcast for residents, businesses, and visitors. Every month, we cover a variety of topics relevant to living life here in the gateway to southern Arizona. My name is Vic Hathaway, and I'm joined by my colleague, Brad Allis.
We got an interesting show today. We're going to take a look back at the state of the town, which will give you a preview of all the great things coming to Marana, not only in the near future, but the far future. Then we'll take a look at the top 5 adventures to have in Marana this summer, and we'll take a deep dive into the town budget. As the fiscal year is coming to a close, we'll talk about how the budget's put together, the importance of having a fiscally sound budget, and maybe even a little bit about the difference between a local municipality's budget and the national government budgets that we hear so much about in the news.
Thank you for listening to us today. On Thursday, April 19th, the Town of Marana and the Marana Chamber of Commerce once again hosted their State of the Town Luncheon and Business Expo. So Brad, you and I, being part of communications, we had the unique opportunity to be a part of this event. We were a part of building it from the ground up, putting together a script, working with Mayor Hathaway, working with the Chamber. So what exactly is this event? What does this event mean for the community? And I guess the best way we can start is by talking about the theme. The theme was "You Are Here." And in our visuals for the branding of the event, we used a map marker similar to what you'd see on Google Maps or any kind of map app. And the idea was to look at the development of our town, where we've started and where we were going, as if it were a roadmap, a place where we start and where we head into our destination.
You know, what's interesting for me is I had attended State of the Town as part of the media previously. You don't think when you're watching the event how much work goes into the event. There's just a lot of work and a lot of different people and departments within the town who have to put on this event. And that's the first thing that kind of jumped out at me. And the second just is, you know, how important the message is and what you're trying to accomplish with the event. Granted, part of it is it's a celebration for the Chamber of Commerce, but it's also a celebration of what the town has accomplished, who is making the town great. And while town staff, we love to take pride in what we do, it's nothing without the businesses. It's nothing without the people who build the homes so the people can live in Marana.
Our role at the Town of Marana was to put together the presentation. And I say presentation instead of speech because beginning last year, we moved away from the traditional mayor speech format and we moved more towards a collaborative presentation involving many staff members from the town organization. So some people to know about the presentation, we had Mayor Hathaway, we had Economic Development Director Kurt Woody, we had Parks and Recreation Director Jim Conroy, and then we had an opportunity to recognize several people in the audience who were invited there to honor them for their contributions in the community. We had our Branding Iron Award recipients, Monica Fowler and Northwest Landscaping. We'll talk a little bit more about what we were doing there with them. And then our Youth Legacy Award recipient, Alicia Sanchez, who is a wonderful example of what our youth is doing in our community.
One of the things I think you looked at was we made the decision to bring the branding irons into this event. Previously, they had been given out at Founders Day, but Founders Day there was grown and there's so much to do that we didn't want it to get lost. Whereas here we could really honor these people, and I think it made a little more excitement to the process for Dr. Fowler, who gives back a lot to the community, for Northwest Landscaping, who's really embraced some of the neighborhoods that they service around Marana and becoming part of those neighborhoods. It's a captive audience who can appreciate and really give them the recognition they deserve. And with the newer award, the Youth Legacy Award, giving Alicia her due and her a chance to get recognized for what they do. And I think it also does break up the event, and I kind of thought about it after. This wasn't our design. Don't want to trivialize it, but in some ways it's kind of more pep rally than political speech. While the mayor is speaking, it's a way to kind of get the town re-enthused for yet another year.
Inclusiveness is a huge part of the way that we formatted this presentation. And in addition to having our businesses there, our residents, our community partners, and of course our elected officials and our town staff, we also expanded our event to include high school kids. In this case, we invited our career and technical education students to come and be a part of the business expo that leads up to the presentation, which was a great opportunity for people to see what our students are learning and what career paths they have in mind, and in a way that that alerts our industries on what the incoming talent is looking to do.
I think so often we see people who think they know what's going on in schools, but don't really. We always say, why don't they teach life skills? Well, these kids in the CTE program are learning life skills. I met a young lady who's already, before she graduated high school, working at one of the major car dealerships as a mechanic. And when she graduates, gets another certification, she'll move up. She's doing oil changes now. She's going to be one of their main mechanics.
So we've set the stage as people come to our State of the Town to see what all different industries and age groups are doing in our community. So now it comes to the presentation. One of the things that everyone wants to know is what's happening here in Marana. And, it's really exciting. It's an exciting time. We've received top 10 designations in the state of Arizona as best town to buy a home, most successful city, as well as just general best city in Arizona, which is a remarkable accomplishment, something that we're very, very proud of.
On behalf of the town of Marana, we are thankful that so many are choosing to relocate here. We welcome these new business and residents to our community, and we are working hard every day to ensure a strong foundation is put in place for them and for anyone else who wishes to come to Marana. By preparing our infrastructure for imminent growth, we continue to meet our community's needs well into the future.
That was Economic Development Director Kurt Woody giving an idea of what the town thinks about as we receive more people into the community, how we prepare for future growth.
Yeah, one thing that maybe people may not know what Kurt does. Kurt is the guy who tries to get businesses to come to Marana. He's oftentimes the first to know what's coming to Marana, and he sells the town. So who better to speak about the great projects coming to Marana than Mr. Woody, who, again, doesn't have a hand in all of them, but has a hand in a lot of them.
So what does this mean for us, for town staff, when Kurt talks about preparing our infrastructure and making sure that we have the ability to take on more businesses? We're located right on I-10. We have a lot of people interested in the area. So from the town's perspective, that means really planning pretty heavily about what we're going to do next.
The best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. In the future, when we say we are here, we'll be talking about a Marana that it's still familiar and but it will have significantly progressed from the one we see today. Our destination is a Marana that continues to grow, continues to adapt, and continues to offer new and exciting amenities for our people. A few months ago, the town of Marana updated its strategic plan for its fourth revision. This living document has set the action for elected officials and staff to address community needs, and it positions Marana for a very successful future. Since its creation a decade ago, this document has played a large role in shaping the town that we see today.
That was Marana Parks and Rec Director Jim Conroy speaking about just kind of how Marana has to take control of its own destiny, and if you don't do the things to be successful, you won't be successful.
Yeah, so we have our strategic plan. This is our fourth update. What it basically does is it cuts up all of our initiatives into 5 focus areas. We have community, commerce, recreation, heritage, and innovation. And by focusing on these areas, we can address all the areas that we believe make the quality of life great here in Marana. And then finally, the presentation took some time and consideration to be very thoughtful of the people who make an impact on the community every day. We didn't get here by accident. We got here as a result of the efforts of many people coming together because they were passionate about their community. And so we were able to honor those people, the Monica Fowler, Northwest Landscaping, and Alicia Sanchez for their contributions to the community.
The Marana Citizens Forum made a presentation to us at our council meeting on Tuesday night about volunteers and how important they are to the community. You know, if you're a volunteer, the only pay you get is a thank you, and a lot of times not enough of those. You know, we really appreciate people that get involved in our community and take their time. If you're a member of the Planning Commission, Board of Adjustment, Citizens Forum, volunteers in policing, or any volunteer service to our community, would you please stand so we could recognize you?
So for those that want to learn more about the state of the town, if you can watch the entire video on our Marana newsroom at maranaaz.gov. We have photos, we have descriptions, and the great thing about this process now is that the state of the town isn't just for the people in the room, it's for people anywhere that want to learn about what's going on here.
Okay, Vicki, the idea was to try to find 5 adventures to have in Marana this summer.
Only 5.
That was tough. There's a lot to do in Marana this summer, but I think we found 5 good ones.
All right.
Cheating a little, we're going to add a few per category. But first and foremost, when I think summer fun, I think water.
That's right. Out in this desert, you need some water.
And luckily for Marana residents, we have 1 now, and soon to be 2 splash pads.
I believe the first one you're going to talk about is the one up at Gladden Farms Community Park, correct?
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one that's open now. People are already enjoying it. If you haven't been out there, absolutely free. The Ramadas are there. The playground is right next to it. So if the kids want to run back and forth, you don't have to. And of course, it has that fun, bright farm theme, a lot of little activities to do within the splash pad. In July, however, at Crossroads Park, the new splash pad is going to open. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be enclosed with some shading, a little less of the farm activities, more just water coming up, but a lot of fun for the kids to have.
This is a great thing to have, especially in the more southern area of Marana. So now we have splash pads on opposite sides of the town.
And again, in both cases, right by playgrounds, right by Ramadas, so you can plan a whole afternoon if you want, take out a park lunch, a picnic lunch, and have some fun. And of course, the Ora-Mayharn pool at Ora-Mayharn Park is also opening later this month, and that too, like the splash pad, is absolutely free.
So we have the Gladden Farms Community Park, where we have the first splash pad, and Ora-Mayharn Park, which are all up in North Marana area in the Gladden Farms community, which you can access by taking the Tangerine exit west off of I-10. And then you have the Crossroads at Silver Bell District Park, where the new splash pad is going in this summer, located right off Cortera Road in Silver Bell area in the very busy Arizona Pavilions. A great place, source of excitement, definitely for this summer.
Our second adventure is hiking on the trails. I mean, Marana has so many great trails, whether you want to take off on the Tortolitas or the shared use path. But with the summer heat, the best way to hike is in the morning. However, on June 2nd, hikers can take off on the Wildboro Path at nighttime because Marana is hosting a headlight hike. Gives you kind of a different perspective on the trail. I mean, most people are hiking in morning. Most people are going out in the daytime, hopefully not in the summer. But this 4.5-mile hike is a good way to get out there with a trail guide, an experienced hiker who can show you maybe different things than you'd see on a morning hike.
For those that are interested in hiking year-round, we also have options in the wintertime especially. We have very knowledgeable hike guides who can take you all over the Tortolita Mountains. And for those that are interested in other things, keep in mind that we also have mountain biking and horseback riding. But for now, this National Trails Day headlight hike is a great thing for you to do. Just mark your calendars for June 2nd.
The hikes are put on by our Parks and Rec staff. They do a great job, but they do more than hiking and the mountain biking that you mentioned. There's a lot of programming this summer. Whether you like sports, I mean, when we think Parks and Rec, a lot of times we think sports, we think getting out there and taking lessons and things like that. And there are certainly those kind of things, but there's a lot for kids, a lot for adults, a lot for seniors. For kids, there are all kinds of day camp. They've got the Create with the Beat camp, which are more traditional summer camp with some arts and crafts, things like that. They also have horse camps for those of you who want to expose your children, and there are family ones too where you can all ride together.
And that really does make a lot of sense if you think about Marana and the community in which Marana came from. Rodeo and horses being a huge part of our history, so that's great that we're able to bring horses into today's curriculum.
With Marana growing so fast, so many great young athletes here, and if you have a young athlete of your own, there are sports clinics. There's a flag football clinic, which leads directly into flag football season in the winter. Basketball clinic, which is filling up very fast. Volleyball, and then later in the summer, and this one is brand new, an agility and quickness clinic for those athletes who are serious about taking their game to the next level.
Interesting. So kids that are taking a break from school can use these camps to get better for their own sports programs once they go back to school in the fall.
In addition, golf and tennis lessons. The tennis lessons are for 15 and up. Golf for the little kids, and swim lessons also for the little kids. And all those, again, are put on by our Parks and Rec department. For grown-ups, there are plenty, too. There's tennis lessons as well, softball leagues, a pickleball league for maybe those a little bit older, love tennis, don't move around as well. Pickleball is a great sport for our active seniors or even those who just might not have the mobility to play full-on tennis.
So, Brad, you're pretty active in the sports leagues. How popular is pickleball becoming these days?
Pickleball is growing huge. Marana has their league. Other senior communities, senior areas have their leagues. It's a fast-growing sport, and again, it's one of those that can keep you competitive. I mean, you got to move a little bit, but it doesn't have the wear and tear that you might find playing a full-on tennis match. Even doubles tennis, you're moving along. Pickleball kind of designed for active, but who don't want that kind of wear and tear on the body.
Okay.
There are also some open gyms for adults who want to play pick-up basketball, pick-up volleyball. And this year, the aquathons, similar to the splash and dash of the past. For those of you who want to get a little bit wet in the pool and do a little bit of running, you can do both of those. For those of you who are maybe a little less athletic, but still want to be involved, have some interesting things to do, for the artistic people, the Marana Community Choir. And for those of you who maybe want to expand your knowledge base in a few different subjects, whether it be music, barbecue, or some financial planning, Pima College offers classes through the Marana Parks and Rec.
Town of Marana has a lot of great partnerships, the latest one being with Pima Community College. But I'm really excited about the choir one, because that is with our Marana High School teacher, Miss Sarah Ross, who the town has worked with plenty of times before with other choir performances, and they do a great job.
They performed out at the Farm Festival last fall. Very impressive. And apparently, she's so good she can handle people and teach people of all different skill levels. Our fourth adventure, I cheated a little bit because we have so many great events being put on by the town this summer that I had to pick all three. First and foremost, the next one up is our free music in Marana. We are going to have a free concert over at Crossroads Park by Little House of Funk, and they are a cool band. In fact, I think you have a little sample of them.
That's right. Let's take a quick listen.
Obviously, with Little House of Funk music, you're going to get powerhouse vocals. You're going to get my personal favorite, a horn section, something I think missing in some modern music. Call me a traditionalist, although that doesn't explain my heavy metal fascination. Again, the concert's free. It's family friendly, and that's what's cool about it. A lot of these times, these bands only play in bars, and you can't take the kids to the bar to go see the band, but you can take them to free music in Marana.
And it's a really great night. You come out. It's right behind Wheeler Taft Library in the Crossroads Silverwell District Park area. It's usually cool by that point, and we always try to have a food truck out there for you to grab a bite to eat. So come on out. That sounds like a really great adventure.
If live music is not your thing, but you want to get out, do something fun in the park or at the pool, we do free movies in Marana. However, during the summertime, it's the free dive-in movie. And on June 16th at the Marana Pool at Orame Harn Park, Despicable Me 3, Further Adventures of Gru and the Minions. If you are not familiar with them, I'm sure your kids are. But the good thing about those movies and movies like them, they're fun for everybody. You don't have to just be a little kid to enjoy Steve Carell, the Minions, who are, funny.
And the great part is you get to enjoy the pool with your kids, and you can relax, and all the kids like to have a lot of fun. It's just a great time.
And finally, maybe the granddaddy of them all, the Star-Spangled Spectacular on July 4th, again at Crossroads Park. This is the biggest free fireworks show in southern Arizona. Obviously, the fireworks are the highlight, but you go out with most of Marana, it seems like, in half of southern Arizona, checking out the bands, free music, several bands on tap, as well as food trucks and other vendors. It's just a good time to get out, good family fun, whether you want to bring out the kids or just you go out and check out the fireworks and have fun on the 4th of July.
And there's a little bit of something for everybody. We have inflatables for the kids, and we have beer gardens for the adults. So it's a great time.
And don't forget to check out MaranaEvents.com for the other free music concerts as well as the free movies that'll go in to the fall. It's not just June and July for the fun free activities. Even though this is our summer adventures, those adventures can creep into the fall time when maybe the temperatures go down a little bit.
Marana Events is a great resource. You want to find out what date your favorite events are coming up on, and what time they are. You can look at what vendors will be available at these events, and you can also check out, for the larger signature events, a map of the area. So for Star Spangled Spectacular Marana, you'll get a chance to see exactly where things will be in the park, and we'll continue to update that information as we get closer.
Just like the Star Spangled Spectacular Marana's food and beverage scene, things to do for the grown-ups, things to do for the kids. For grown-ups, especially those who maybe like a craft beer, not necessarily, and there's nothing wrong with it, the more domestic bulk beers, but a craft beer, Marana has not one, not two, but three breweries. Three places where they brew their own local craft beers. Catalina Brewing Company and the Button Brew House, which are right there next to each other, just off of Ina Road. Up in the Dove Mountain area, the Dove Mountain Brewing Company, nice name for the area. And again, all three places brewing their own craft beer. If you're not as picky about where the beer is brewed, but still want a good craft beer, a unique beer experience, there's Growler's Tap House on Silver Bell Road. And coming up later on this year, Casa Marana Craft Beer and Wine is also coming. A concept that's worked midtown by the U of A, the people who own Casa Video. They're bringing their kind of unique take on a beer and wine bar to Marana as well. Those aren't the only options, plenty more. And, a great place to see some of the food and dining and beverage options in Marana is our Discover Marana site.
Yeah, if you go to discovermarana.org, you get to see a lot more about what's here and what's being offered, not just in Marana, but around the region. And I've got to say, I've been working here in the area for about 7 years now, and it's been amazing watching the development go up around us. And to now say that we have all these options, it's an amazing experience. And I'm really excited that this is something that the residents can come out and enjoy.
As the place expands, as Marana gets bigger, as the restaurant industry in Tucson gets stronger with the economy, a lot of places, seems like every week, a new restaurant, a new fast food place, a new bar, a new dessert place comes into Marana. That's very exciting.
Exciting, but not very surprising, considering that we are located right on I-10, and it's a great place for people to come right through and do some shopping and check out the Tucson Premium Outlet Mall right off Twin Peaks exit, and also check out Arizona Pavilions, which has a lot more new development going up almost every single day.
Okay, so I hyped up the beer options, but for those of you with kids who want to have a fun day with the kids, maybe you check out the Premium Outlets, checking out one of the great parks in Marana, but want something to cool off. A lot of great ice cream options, including the Screamery, which is there in Arizona Pavilions, which uses a lot of Marana-sourced ingredients, which is pretty cool. And if you want a little bit of a unique take, a Mexican ice cream place, La Garrafa, that uses some traditional Mexican techniques and equipment that they actually brought up from Mexico. They were trying to recapture their childhood and the owners, and that is over there on Thornydale. So two good options, along with some of the others that maybe you're more familiar with, but two locally owned companies that are pretty cool ice cream places. I
love taking my daughter out to get ice cream. It's a great chance to bond with your children or just your friends and your family. Delicious, and I can say that for those that probably can't have ice cream, the Screamery has great dairy-free options as well.
So that's it. Those are my five-ish favorite adventures in Marana. I kind of had to hedge a few things.
I would say that we definitely cheated. It was a little hard to get it down to just 5 adventures.
Hopefully that inspires you to get out, check out Marana this summer, and some of those even this fall and year-round. Plenty to do, plenty of fun to be had in the community.
On May 15th, the town of Marana passed the tentative budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. We're sitting here with our former finance director and current deputy town manager, Erik Montague, and budget analyst, Michael Dyckman, to talk a little bit more about what this budget means and what we have planned for our future. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with the basics. What is a budget, and what is the role of the budget play in local government?
The simplest form of budget really is a plan that allocates the estimated revenues that we're going to collect in any given year to really what's important to the community. In the case of local government, importance is really determined through what the various planning documents that exist, like the strategic plan and other planning documents, as well as the public's involvement in the budgeting process itself. In the case of the strategic plan, it really sets the course for decisions to be taken by staff and council, which really are looking to address the community needs and the services that we provide.
Kind of just adding to that, a budget, you can kind of see it as almost like a mechanism for setting goals and objectives, and then it tells you how to allocate those resources to meet those goals.
So as a government, the town of Marana takes our tax dollars and puts them towards projects. Now, Erik, what does it mean to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars?
Well, public employees are really entrusted with the responsibility to care for those taxpayer dollars. And by care, I mean more than investing to ensure that they're available. We're really looking to maximize the value of the services that we provide to those in our community. Whether it be experiences that we provide in our parks, the condition of our roads, or the outreach and other efforts that our public safety or police department provides. We're really looking to extend the value that we provide.
So it's kind of getting more bang for your buck, not making sure not only you providing the service, but doing it as well as you can without wasting money.
Absolutely. We want to stretch those dollars to maximize the benefit, the value of the services that they're seeing for those dollars, and maintain that trust.
Another big portion of it is also transparency on how we spend tax dollar resources on. The town of Marana does a really good job of ensuring that we have transparency with all our finances. We have financial transparency dashboards you can access, as well as a number of other attributes.
So from the public perspective, we pay our taxes every year. We have different kinds of taxes that we have to pay. How does that actually end up in the town's budget? How do our tax dollars fit in with the budget? And how can you break down what percentage of our taxes go to local government? Michael, what are your thoughts?
When it comes to government revenue collection and spending just as a whole, they're kind of two different types. There's like the redistributive and the allocative. In a nutshell, kind of the federal government basically collects income taxes, things like that, but they don't actually spend a good portion of that. They redistribute a lot of it to states and local governments to spend. That is, the feds, they don't build parks or buy textbooks for schools and stuff like that. They give the money to Arizona and have them like, here's money for road infrastructure, you build the roads. That's how it kind of ties in here. As a local government, Marana, we're on the allocative side, not the redistributive side. So the funding that we receive, we spend. We're the ones that actually go out and build those parks, whereas we're the ones that build those roads.
So when we hear things like HERF funds and that are used for pavement preservation, that's not the money Marana collects. That's the money that would be coming down from the Arizona government, which may or may not come from federal government.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of what it is there. So, I mean, the state of Arizona, they collect gas sales taxes, they collect state sales taxes and stuff like that. And a good portion of that, too, trickles its way back into Marana via state shared revenues.
So Michael, here in the town of Marana, residents pay sales tax, and that goes directly to the town. Can you talk a little bit about that? What percentage stays here in the town? What percentage moves on to the state and so on?
Yeah, so right now Marana residents will pay an 8.6% sales tax at the cash register. Only a small portion of that, 2.5% actually, is levied by Marana. 5.6% is the state, and the other 0.5% is Pima County. So that 2.5% that Marana collects, that's what we budget for and we deploy right here in our community.
So the town of Marana issues a sales tax, and that's where they get a lot of their revenue. They do not have a property tax. Some communities do have a property tax. So how does the town generate additional revenues? Erik?
The town itself does not have a primary property tax like other jurisdictions or communities, so really we rely heavily on what is called our big three revenues. And in fact, over 90% of our revenues come from sales taxes, shared revenues that we receive back from the state, as well as development-related revenues. That's over 90% of the revenues we use to pay most of our bills and provide most of our services that you see. All of those revenue streams are really economically sensitive, which is to say that if we have a severe recession, those revenue collections may reduce and may be reduced significantly, like what happened during the Great Recession. A property tax itself is less economically sensitive to those recession elements. Those revenue streams do provide greater security.
At the end of the day, is the town of Marana in the black?
Yes, at the end of the day, we are in the black. And the big portion of that is because we strive every year to adopt a balanced budget. It's also structurally balanced, too.
In the case of in the black for a governmental agency is vastly different than it is in the private community. In the case of a private business, their in the black is really returning a profit back to the owner or shareholders. In our case, being in the black as a community really refers to our balanced budget approach and really enhancing the value of the services that we provide to the community and returning that as value back to them and not in a true for-profit.
So the town of Marana has a balanced budget, and it may not be a private business, but it has excess funds, and when that does happen, it's placed in a reserve. Can you talk a little bit, Erik, about what the town's philosophy is on having money in the reserve, and what is our minimum requirement for having a reserve?
The town established a reserve policy, or kind of a rainy day fund policy, a number of years ago, back in 2007. The purpose of which is really to provide monies that might be available to help offset the impacts of some future economic cycle. The reserves that we built up before the Great Recession did help position the town to offset some of that impact, and that's really what the purpose and the intent of those.
So right now the town of Marana has reserves in excess of our recommended 25%. Erik, what could those excess reserves be used for?
Essentially expenditures covered in reserves or in that rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is of value only when it's a very good thing for us to have and provides a certain amount of flexibility important priority to this community.
So right now the town of Marana has reserves in excess of our recommended 25%. Erik, what could those excess reserves be used for?
In the case of reserves, we want to be very thoughtful about the use of them over time. And they are a one-time resource, which means that once they're spent, they're not going to replenish. So those dollars can be utilized or allocated as part of a public budgeting process to identify how they might be deployed, or some portion of them deployed or utilized to advance a specific initiative, some specific project in the future, or some other one-time maybe program to benefit our overall community. We do want to be very thoughtful about how those are used, since we are only going to have those at one time.
So how does managing the town of Marana's budget compare with managing a federal government?
Obviously, there's going to be some similarities and differences between the two. At the end of the day, both the federal government and Marana, any local government, is going to try to provide public good, public services to citizens. Biggest difference, though, is that Marana, as well as other local governments, they operate in a very well-defined boundary and box per se, as in what we're expected to bring in for our resources, that's what we can spend. When the federal government is a little more flexible, where they can go out, they can issue debt and things like that to fund ongoing programs they deem necessary.
The town of Marana passed the tentative budget on May 15th. The new budget will begin July 1st. How can the public participate in the following fiscal years?
Our budget process is really quite a lengthy process, and for each fiscal year, even though it starts on July 1, really begins in earnest, really starting back in December or January before that. We have a webpage that's dedicated to providing some basic information about specific dates and times, so the public can get some additional information directly from that webpage. But what we're looking to do is really have them be engaged and participate in the process. And to do that, it's our hopes that in addition to reading some of that information that's available and out there, is really to subscribe to various notifications, either through agendas or other budget notifications that are available to them, so that, starting in January of each year, they can participate and make a difference in shaping their community's budget.
Thank you, Erik and Michael, for joining us today to talk about the budget process. It's been very informative. If residents want to be more involved in this budget process and therefore more knowledgeable of what's going on in their local government, please visit maranaaz.gov. We have information on our budget page. You can follow the money on our financial dashboard, and you can see about all the new projects that are happening here in the town on our Marana newsroom and on our projects page.
Hi, I'm Janine Spencer-Glasson, Environmental Project Manager at the Town of Marana, and I'd like to talk to you about the new Ina Road Bridge and the Bat Habitat Replacement Project. The old Ina Road Bridge over the Santa Cruz River needed to be replaced because it was becoming structurally unsound and could no longer handle traffic volumes. The problem was that the old Ina Bridge had expansion joints and crevices that were excellent habitat for bats, providing homes for over 25,000 bats during the summer and a lesser number during the winter. But the new bridge designs are flat-bottomed with no bat habitat. Most of the bats in the Ina Road Bridge are Mexican free-tailed bats, and there are a few cave myotis as well. Bats are very beneficial in our environment. Did you know that small insectivorous bats can devour up to 2,000 mosquito-sized insects in one night? Unfortunately, over 50% of all bat species are severely declining in numbers or are already listed as endangered, according to Bat Conservation International. The Ina Road Bridge is one of many Tucson area bridges that provide important day roosts, maternity roosts, and night roosts for at least 8 different species of bats. Amid widespread urbanization, suitable bat roosting sites are often limited. The conservation of bat maternity roosts for both migratory and non-migratory species is important for the maintenance and recovery of bat populations. Many bat species have just one pup per year, and they have a lifespan of up to 20 years, so the loss of each bat roost is significant. For this reason, Arizona Game and Fish Department required mitigation for our project through the Corps of Engineers 404 Clean Permit for the bats that would be displaced from the old Ina Road Bridge. The town worked with an engineering firm and with bat biologists to determine how best to incorporate bat roosting habitat into this new flat-bottom bridge. Bat biologists from Game and Fish Department monitored the bat population on a monthly basis for a year prior to construction and installed monitors that track the temperature in the old bridge to determine what conditions are preferred by the bats. Because the Sonoran Desert can get very hot during the summer and cold during the winter, it's important to design bat roosting habitat that's well insulated to mimic the temperature moderation that's provided by the thermal mass of very large bridges. A thickened deck was designed with cutouts so that the bat boxes could be inserted up into the bridge deck mass to moderate temperatures for the bats. One of the bat biologists on the project provided information on a new bat box design called Modern Bat that's created in New Mexico from a lightweight cement material and provides insulation to keep the temperatures from getting too extreme. The Regional Transportation Authority Wildlife Linkages Subcommittee approved funding for the boxes. Marana supplied some of the funding for bat box installation, and Arizona Department of Transportation worked with Game and Fish Department to design bridge girders that could accommodate the bat boxes in the bridge. Arizona Game and Fish Department had to carefully exclude the bats from the old Ina Road Bridge before it was demolished. They would go out every evening for almost a month to make sure that all the little bats were safely moved. The exclusion was timed during mid-October through December, when monitoring had shown that the bat numbers were at their lowest. The new bat habitat installed under the bridge began to fill with bats almost immediately, and as a result, Department of Transportation, Regional Transportation Authority, Town of Marana, and Arizona Game and Fish Department cooperated to include additional bat boxes in the second phase of the Ina Road Bridge, for a total of 14 boxes. These boxes are estimated to hold about 2,200 bats per box. That will provide plenty of habitat for the returning bats. The new bat boxes will be ready and waiting as occupants return here to their Ina Road Bridge roosts. Most bats come back here in June. Watching thousands of bats emerge from the Tucson area bridges at dusk is an awesome sight as they swirl out and wing their way into the night to feed on insects. Since the Ina Road Bridge is still under construction, an evening bat watching spot that I'd recommend with good parking is at the Campbell Street Bridge over the Rieto River. Happy bat watching.
Thank you for listening to our very first episode of Marana Town Talk. We'd love to hear from you. Have feedback, questions, or story ideas? Contact us on maranaaz.gov/newsroom or email us at communications@maranaaz.gov.
We'll return every month with interesting stories about the community. Until next time, follow the Town of Marana on Facebook and Twitter. For Vic Hathaway, I'm Brad Allis. We'll see you around town.